The sound of my wine glass setting down was the only noise in the room. It was louder than the lie my son just told. He thought he brought home a girlfriend. In reality, he brought home an enemy. By desert. My plan was not just to disown him. It was to destroy her. I will not let an opportunist tear down what I built. They will soon learn that stepping on my trust was the last deadly mistake they will ever make. My name is Margaret. I am 62 years old, and on Sundays, I host dinner. This is not a request. It is a tradition. One of the pillars holding up the life I built from ash and sheer force of will. From my penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline, the world looks orderly, predictable. I founded Quantum Strategies, Inc. On that very principle, find the anomaly, identify the threat, and neutralize it before it breaches the perimeter. Tonight, the anomaly was 5 minutes late and ringing my doorbell. The chime echoed in the foyer. I smoothed the front of my dress as my housekeeper, Maria, went to the door. Julian, my son, 30 years old, my golden boy. Not because he was perfect, but because I had polished him, invested in him, and expected a significant return. He was my intended legacy, but he did not come alone. "Mum, I have a surprise," he said, stepping aside. His voice strained with a false brightness I recognized immediately. The woman beside him was Chloe. She was, he explained breathlessly, 28. She was also a calculated risk assessment I was running in real time. I have spent my life anticipating threats, and this one was wearing a perfectly tailored white dress and a smile that did not, for a single second, touch her eyes. "It's a true honor to finally meet you, Margaret," Chloe said. Her voice was smooth, practiced, like a sales pitch I had heard 100 times. "The pleasure is all mine, Chloe," I replied, my own voice gracious. "Julian rarely brings his friends home for Sunday dinner." We moved to the dining room. The aroma of the rosemary-crusted lamb, usually a comfort, felt heavy, cloying. The dinner began. The tension was a third guest at the table, sitting right between us. Julian was a wreck. He kept adjusting his tie, refilling water glasses that were already full, desperately trying to bridge the silence between the two women who defined his world. "Mum's apartment is incredible, isn't it, Chloe?" he offered, grasping for common ground. "It's just breathtaking," Chloe agreed, her eyes wide. I watched her. As the founder of a technology security firm, I do not just look at people. I scan them, I run diagnostics. I search for the vulnerabilities, the backdoors, the lines of flawed code. And Chloe was a fortress of false pretenses. Her compliments were too polished, her admiration too vast. When she thought I was not looking, her gaze lingered on the Richter painting in the entryway, not with artistic appreciation, but with cold calculation. It was the gaze of an appraiser, not an art lover. We talked about the market, about a new tech initiative. Chloe offered opinions that were smart but generic, perfectly calibrated to agree with whomever she perceived held the power. Under the table, I could see Julian nervously tapping his foot. Then I saw her wrist as she reached for her wine. A Patek Philippe. A very good one. But I knew my watches. The weight was off by perhaps a few grams. The finish on the crown was almost imperceptible in its error, a millimeter too dull. It was a high-grade counterfeit, a fake watch for a fake woman. She was broadcasting ambition while trying to mimic wealth, a fatal, sloppy miscalculation. The main course was cleared. Maria brought out the crème brûlée. Julian started to relax, perhaps thinking he had successfully navigated the most difficult introduction of his life. He was wrong. So, Julian, what are your plans for the summer trip? I asked, turning to my son, offering him an easy exit. I was hoping you would finally use the lake house. Julian opened his mouth, but Chloe, emboldened by the wine and her perceived success, spoke first. Her voice was light, playful. Oh, we were actually hoping we could get to Italy for our honeymoon. Silence. Not just quiet, but the absolute vacuum of sound that happens before a building implodes. I watched Julian's face drain of colour. He froze, his hand halfway to his glass. He looked like a child caught setting a fire. I set my fork down. The silver tine clicked against the porcelain, a sharp, precise sound in the sudden stillness. Honeymoon. I kept my voice perfectly level, a placid lake surface hiding the fathoms of ice beneath. Julian's eyes darted from me to Chloe, then down to his plate. He was a trapped animal. Mom, he started, his voice cracking. There is something we wanted to tell you. Chloe, sensing the shift, placed a possessive, manicured hand on his arm. We were just so excited. Julian, we should just tell her. I waited. I let the silence stretch, tightening around my son's throat, forcing him to be the one to break it. We got married, he finally stammered out, the words tumbling in a rush. Last month, at City Hall. It was fast. We just wanted it to be us. I held his gaze. My golden boy, the child I had protected from every predator, had just willingly walked into the lion's den and handed the lioness the key. I looked at him. My creation. My weakness. Then I slowly turned my head to face the lioness herself. Chloe was smiling, a triumphant, nervous little smile. She thought she had won. She thought the fortress had fallen. I smiled back. It was a cold, brittle thing that did not reach my eyes. Really, congratulations, you two. Julian sagged in relief, the tension leaving him in a visible rush. Oh, Mum, thank you. I was so worried you would be upset. I raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. Why would I be upset? My son has found his person. This calls for champagne. As I signaled for Maria, I dabbed my lips with my linen napkin. If you will excuse me for just a moment. I placed the napkin on the table. I need to use the powder room. I walked, not rushed, down the marble hallway, my heels clicking decisively. The heavy, soundproof door of the guest bathroom clicked shut behind me. I stared at the woman in the mirror. Margaret, 62 years old, founder of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I was not a woman who cried. Crying was a useless expenditure of emotional resources. I reached into my evening bag and pulled out my secure, encrypted phone. I did not call my lawyer. Lawyers are for cleaning up messes. I call the people who prevent the mess from ever spreading. The phone rang once. Arthur. Mom? His voice was gravel, as reliable as bedrock. We had worked together for 20 years. I have a new assignment for you, Arthur. I looked at my reflection, my eyes cold steel, my expression unmoving. A woman named Chloe, last name unknown, approximately 28. She just married my son. I paused, listening to the faint sounds of celebration from the dining room. I want to know everything. I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper of pure ice. Where she was born, what she ate for breakfast, and every lie she has ever told. I want it by morning. Understood, he said. I clicked the phone off, smoothed my dress, and practiced the bright, maternal smile I would wear for the rest of the night. Right now. I returned to the dining room, my smile firmly in place. Maria was already there with the chilled champagne I had requested on my way back. Julian looked up, his face awash with a pathetic, childlike relief, as if my 10-minute absence had been a trial by fire. There you are, he said, jumping up to pull out my chair. Of course. I sat, taking the bottle from Maria. We must celebrate. The cork released with a satisfying, expensive pop. The sound was a punctuation mark on the lie. I poured 3 flutes, the bubbles rising aggressively, like a silent scream. To my son, Julian, I said, raising my glass, and to his new bride, Chloe. We touched glasses. I watched Chloe over the rim. She was beaming, her face lit with a victory she believed was complete. I must admit, I said, taking a small, deliberate sip, I am a little shocked. But I am happy for you, Julian. Truly. I manufactured a small tremor in my voice, the perfect note of a mother feeling slightly wounded, slightly left behind, but ultimately supportive. It was a performance I had perfected in boardrooms for 30 years, and it worked just as well at my dinner table. Julian lapped it up. Oh, Mom, I know. I am so sorry we did not tell you. It happened so fast. We were so in love. I can see that, I said, turning my maternal, slightly pained smile onto Chloe. She met my gaze with what she thought was empathy. So, you must tell me everything. How did you two possibly meet, and why all the secrecy? This was the part I was waiting for, the prepared narrative. Chloe took the lead, placing her hand on Julian's. It is going to sound so silly, she began, the classic opening for a well-rehearsed lie. I was at this little cafe in Lincoln Park, the one with the green awning I had just ordered, and I realized I had left my wallet at my apartment. She was panicking, Julian chimed in, picking up his cue. And I was at the next table, so I offered to pay for her coffee. It was so sweet, Chloe continued, gazing at him. He was a perfect gentleman. We started talking, and we just clicked. It was like we had known each in another life. A total lightning bolt. A lightning bolt, I repeated, tasting the words. They were metallic, false. How romantic. And all this from a chance meeting at a cafe. I watched her as she spoke. She was good. Very good. She maintained eye contact. Her body language was open, and her stories were filled with charming, specific-sounding details, but her hands were the tell. As she described their whirlwind romance, her left hand rested on Julian's, a gesture of possession, of ownership. But her right hand, the one holding the champagne flute, was restless. Her eyes, while feigning adoration for my son, kept doing what I had seen earlier. They scanned the room. They lingered on the silk wallpaper, the antique silver, the view. She was not just in the room, she was inventorying it. The rest of the dinner was a blur of platitudes and empty calories. I played my part to perfection. I asked about her family, a wealthy, old-money New England background. Naturally. Her education, a vague arts degree from a prestigious school, and her work, a charming but undefined role in non-profit consulting. Every answer was designed to impress, to soothe, to imply she was my equal. Finally, the farce was over. I walked them to the foyer. "Well, Chloe," I said, pulling her into an embrace. It was like hugging a marble statue, all cold angles and no give. "Welcome to the family. We will have to organize a proper party, a grand celebration, so I can introduce you to everyone." "I would love that," she whispered, her voice full of false sincerity. I turned to Julian and hugged him, too. "I love you," I murmured, and it was the only true thing I had said all night. "Be happy." He pulled back, his eyes shining with unshed tears of relief. "Thank you, Mum. This means the world to me." "Go," I said, shooing them toward the elevator. "Enjoy your evening." The heavy steel doors closed, sealing them in. I stood in the foyer until I heard the faint ding from the lobby, 30 floors below. Then I turned, walked back into my living room, and my phone began to vibrate, exactly on schedule. "Arthur." "Ma'am." "You were right to be suspicious. As always." His voice was devoid of emotion. The facial recognition scan I ran from the photo I took when she stepped out of the elevator just came back. Chloe is not her real name. I sat down in one of the armchairs, the city lights twinkling below me, suddenly looking like a net. "Go on." "Her name," Arthur said, "is Amber Hines." In an Uber crossing the Chicago River, Chloe, or Amber, was laughing. She kicked off her heels and rested her head on Julian's shoulder. "See, I told you she would love me. I was worried for nothing." "You were amazing," Julian said, kissing the top of her head. He was drunk on champagne, and the intoxicating relief of a crisis averted. "She was tough at first, but you won her over. Welcome to the family." She has never said that to anyone I have ever dated. "Well, I am not just anyone," she murmured, snuggling closer. "I am your wife." Julian smiled, but as the car hit a pothole, a brief, sharp chill ran down his spine. Her confidence, which he usually found so intoxicating, felt different tonight. It felt absolute. He shook it off. It was just the stress. He was married. His mother approved. Everything was finally perfect. Back in the penthouse, I was listening to the other side of the story. "This is not her first time doing this," Arthur stated flatly. "I am still digging, but what I have found in the last hour is not good. She is a professional, and Julian fits the pattern." I clenched the armrest, my knuckles white. "What pattern?" "Wealthy, single men," Arthur said. "Usually with a powerful mother or a recent inheritance. She finds them, isolates them, and marries them before anyone can run a background check." "So, we annul the marriage," I said. "We expose her." There was a heavy pause on the other end of the line. "It is more complicated than that, ma'am," Arthur said. "That Patek watch you mentioned, I ran her name through a few databases it's connected to. The problem is, Julian is not her only husband." I stopped breathing. "What did you say?" "Amber Hines is still legally and currently married to a man in Houston, Texas." I did not go home. I went to a secure location, an anonymous grey office in a glass tower in the West Loop. One of a dozen such properties Quantum Strategies maintains for critical operations. It is a room with no windows, reinforced steel walls, and a dedicated, closed-loop server. It smells of cooled air and faint ozone. Arthur was already there, the room illuminated only by the glow of an 80-inch smart screen on the wall. He did not greet me. He simply tapped the screen. Her face appeared, sharp and in high definition, captured from my building's security feed. "Subject confirmed," Arthur said, his voice as dry as static. "Her name is Amber Hines, born 1994. He swiped. A new image appeared, a satellite photo of a dilapidated trailer park in Biloxi, Mississippi. "This is her New England family estate. She has no education beyond high school, no arts degree, no trust fund." He continued, his voice a flat monotone as he narrated the destruction of the fiction my son had swallowed. He brought up document after document, a digital dossier of a predator. "She has a history," he said. "A long one. She specializes in marriage fraud, specifically targeting men in their 30s, always wealthy, and, according to my profiling, always with complex maternal relationships." I felt a cold sting, a personal, precise strike. She had profiled my son. She knew his weaknesses because they were, in part, my creations. "She is not just a gold digger, ma'am. She is a saboteur." He swiped again. 2 separate restraining orders, filed in Nevada and Florida. These 2 were just fiancés. They got out before she could sign the papers. They barely escaped with their finances intact. This one, he pointed, claims she emptied his personal accounts of nearly $500,000 in 3 weeks. This other one tried to break it off, so she filed false assault charges to leverage a payout. She nearly destroyed his reputation. "The motive?" I asked, my voice as cold as the room. "She is desperate," Arthur replied. "We found massive gambling debts, 6 figures, at least, spread across a dozen online accounts. She needed a big score, and she needed it fast." I processed this. A desperate, cornered animal. The most dangerous kind. "The cafe," I said. "The lightning bolt meeting." Arthur shook his head. "Fiction." He brought up a new file. It was security footage, date-stamped 3 months prior. I recognized it immediately. The Tech Benevolence Gala, an event I had sponsored, a table I had paid for. I was closing a deal in Zurich, so I had sent Julian in my place. The footage showed Julian, immaculate in his tuxedo, laughing near the bar. And then, the camera caught her. Amber Hines. She was not a guest. She was wearing the black and white uniform of the catering staff. "She was working the event," Arthur narrated, zooming in on her face. "She was watching Julian. She spent 2 hours tracking him across the room before she accidentally spilled a tray of champagne on him. It was not a meeting. It was an ambush." I watched the screen, transfixed. The lie was not just a lie. It was an operation. She had not met Julian. She had targeted him. She had researched him. She knew he was my son. The goal was not just Julian, I said, the pieces clicking into place with the terrifying certainty of a bomb arming itself. The goal was quantum strategies. "Yes, ma'am," Arthur said. "He was the entry point, the compromised password to your entire system." In that sterile, windowless room, the last vestige of the wounded mother evaporated. The ache of betrayal, the sadness for my son's broken heart, it all burned away, forged into something hard, cold, and heavy. It was the rage of a queen whose fortress had been breached by a fool of a prince. Julian was not just my son. He was a vulnerability, a tool she had used to get to me. I had built my empire from nothing, anticipating every threat, calculating every move. And this grifter from a Mississippi trailer park thought she could walk into my home, poison my bloodline, and lay claim to my throne. She had mistaken my son's weakness for my own. "We will have the marriage annulled on grounds of bigamy," I said, my voice sharp. "We will expose her." "I thought so, too," Arthur said quietly. He held up a hand. But I dug into the Texas husband, the one she is still legally married to, a man named Marcus. Another victim. "That is what I assumed," Arthur said. He swiped to the final image. It was from a security camera at an ATM, taken just 2 days ago, less than a mile from my penthouse. It showed Amber, Chloe, withdrawing cash, standing directly behind her, his hand on her shoulder, his eyes scanning the street, was Marcus. I stared at the screen. The two of them, relaxed, comfortable, a team. "He is not a victim," I whispered. "No, ma'am," Arthur said. "He is her partner. They are a professional unit, and they are both, as of this moment, in my city." I left Arthur's secure office at 3 a.m. The city was asleep, but my mind was operating at full capacity, white-hot with calculation. The intelligence phase was over. It was time to call my lawyer. I did not call the Corporate Council for Quantum Strategies. This was not a breach of contract. This was an infestation. My car moved silently through the empty streets as I dialed the one number I reserved for true crises. Eleanor Vance. Eleanor is not just a lawyer. She is a weapon. The undisputed, terrifying shark of Chicago's legal waters. And I had kept her on retainer for 2 decades for this exact purpose. She answered on the second ring. "Margaret." Her voice was awake, sharp. She never slept. She merely waited. "Eleanor, I have a situation. I am coming to your office." "I am already here," she replied, and the line went dead. Her office, occupying the entire 61st floor, was a monument of glass and steel overlooking the dark lake. She was waiting in her conference room, a file of blank paper in front of her. She wore a severe grey suit, as if it were 3 p.m. Arthur was already patched in on a secure, oversized screen. "Arthur has briefed me," she said, skipping all pleasantries. "You have a bigamy problem." "I have a predator problem," I corrected, taking my seat. "My son is the victim of a calculated professional marriage fraud. He is besotted. He thinks he is in love. But he is married to a woman named Amber Hines, who is, in turn, married to a man in Texas. This entire union is void." Eleanor steepled her fingers. "The bigamy angle is a gift. It is a clean, simple kill. We file for annulment tomorrow morning, citing fraud and the existing marriage. We present the evidence from Arthur, which is, as always, impeccable. The marriage is voided. We can have her and this Marcus character arrested for fraud by sundown." I looked at the screen, then at Eleanor. I shook my head, slowly. No. Eleanor's stillness was absolute. "Explain." "You are a lawyer, Eleanor. You think in terms of a clean kill. I am a strategist. I think in terms of the long game," I said. "Julian, he is infatuated. He is 30. But in this, he is a child. If we attack her, he will not see us as his saviors. He will see us as the enemy. He will say we manufactured the evidence. He will defend her. He will fight us. And he will resent me for the rest of his life. He will choose her out of sheer, misplaced defiance." I leaned forward, my voice dropping. "We cannot tell him the truth. We have to make him see it. He has to be the one to discover who he married. And to do that, we must let her believe she is winning." A slow, calculating gleam entered Eleanor's eyes. This, she understood. This was not just law. It was warfare. So, she said, we do not want a quick annulment. We want a controlled demolition. You want to set a trap. I want to fortify the walls, I said, and I want her to starve. Then we begin, Eleanor said. She turned to her paralegal, who was waiting in the corner like a spectre. Pull the financials for all of Julian's discretionary trusts. All of them. For the next 2 hours, we systematically dismantled my son's life. This trust his grandfather set up, Eleanor said, pointing to a line item on the screen. He has full access. We petition the court for an emergency hold, citing potential fraudulent activity, effective immediately. We move those assets into a new, irrevocable trust. You, Margaret, will be the sole trustee. The disbursement terms will be at your absolute discretion. He will not be able to buy a cup of coffee without your written approval. Done? I said. Next. Your will. She continued, her voice sharp. We draft a new codicil. Right now. Julian's inheritance is to be held in trust and contingent upon his marital status. Any marriage entered into without your express written consent, or any legal action he takes against you or Quantum Strategies, voids his claim to 99% of the estate. It all goes to charity. Make it 100%? I said. I turned to my own phone. Arthur, I want all of Julian's personal credit cards, the ones tied to the family accounts, frozen. I want his access to the health club, the car service, and the building funds cut off. I want it all done by 8 a.m. When he wakes up, he will be a civilian. He will have to learn to live without my money, I stated. Eleanor's paralegal looked up, his face pale. Ma'am, if we do this, if we cut him off this aggressively, they will sue. They will file for spousal support, for damages. They will come at you with everything. I looked at Eleanor. A thin smile touched my lips for the first time that night. I know, and I want them to. I am counting on it. Let them file. Let them open their books to legal discovery. I want them desperate, and I want them in your courtroom. Eleanor nodded, closing the file. So, we have the annulment papers drafted and ready to file. But we hold them. We hold them, I confirmed, standing up. The plan was no longer just a reaction. It was an offensive. What is your next move? Margaret, Eleanor asked, walking me to the door. I paused, looking out at the first grey light of dawn breaking over the city. I am going to let Amber Hines think she has me on the ropes. I am going to let her think her little con worked. I am going to let her get greedy, sloppy, and careless. How? I am going to welcome her to the family, I said. And then, I am going to give her a job. 1 week later, I threw the most extravagant welcome to the family party the Chicago elite had seen in years. I booked the entire terrace of the Pinnacle Club, a place with a waiting list so long it was practically hereditary. I invited everyone, the old money families, the new tech billionaires, the politicians, and the press. I wanted witnesses. Amber, wearing the name Chloe like a costume, was in her element. She wore a backless red dress, a shade too loud for the event, and a diamond necklace I recognized as one of Julian's first withdrawals from his now frozen trust. She was preening, holding court, telling her well-rehearsed stories to a rapt audience. Julian, my poor blind son, was beaming. He looked happier than I had seen him in months. his arm wrapped possessively around her waist. He kept catching my eye from across the room, raising his glass in a silent, "Thank you." He thought this was his mother's surrender, her final, unconditional acceptance. He was so tragically wrong. At 10 p.m., I tapped my glass for a speech. The crowd quieted, the city lights a glittering carpet behind me. "Good evening," I began, my voice carrying easily over the hushed terrace. "I want to thank you all for coming on such short notice. As many of you know, I am a woman who values discretion. I am not prone to grand gestures." A light, knowing laugh rippled through the crowd. "But then," I continued, turning my smile toward Julian and Chloe, "my son does something truly grand. He found a lightning bolt, as they say. He fell in love and got married. And while it was a surprise," I gave another perfectly timed, self-deprecating laugh, "I have come to see what he sees in his remarkable new wife, Chloe, my dear." I beckoned her forward. She was radiant with triumph. Julian was nearly in tears. "Welcome to the family," I said, and the crowd burst into applause. "And as a token of that welcome, Julian, Chloe, I have a small gift for you." I presented them with a velvet box. Inside was a single platinum key. "It is for the new penthouse at the Elysian," I announced. "A proper home for you two to start your life." The crowd gasped. The Elysian was the most exclusive new building in the city. Amber's eyes widened, her mask slipping to reveal the raw, unadulterated greed beneath. "Oh, Margaret," she breathed. "We cannot possibly." "You can, and you will," I said warmly, cutting her off. "And, of course, you will need to furnish it." I slipped a heavy, black metal card from my pocket. "This should help. A little something to get you started." Julian protested. "Mum, this is too much. It is really not necessary." "Nonsense," I said. "It is my pleasure." What Julian did not know was that the penthouse was a cage. One Arthur had spent the last 3 days meticulously outfitting with the most advanced audio and visual surveillance equipment money can buy. And the black card was not a credit card. It was a leash. It had a weekly spending limit of $5,000, low enough to frustrate her. And every transaction was flagged directly to Arthur's terminal. But I had one more gift. "And for you, Chloe," I said, turning to her. "You mentioned you were in non-profit consulting, but I find that so vague. A woman with your clear talents should have a real challenge. I want you close." I smiled at the crowd. I have created a new position for her at Quantum Strategies, Vice President of Strategic Philanthropy. Now, she was truly speechless. She was ecstatic. She had not just married the prince. She had been handed a key to the treasury. She lunged forward and hugged me. "Thank you, Margaret. You will not regret this." "Oh," I said, patting her back. "I am absolutely certain of that." Later that night, in the back of a taxi, Amber Hines was on the phone with her husband, not my son, but the one in Texas. Arthur had the audio feed playing in my car as I drove home. "You will not believe this. Marcus." She was giggling, the sound high and giddy. "We are in. We are all the way in. The old bitch gave me a job, a VP title and a black card, a penthouse. She is eating out of my hand." "I told you the mommy issues angle would work," his gravelly voice replied. "The idiot is her weak spot. So, when do you get access?" "I start Monday," Amber said. They are going to roll out the red carpet. I will be on the executive server by Tuesday. We are rich, baby. We are finally, truly rich. On Monday, Chloe arrived for her first day. I gave her the corner office, the one with the best view. I had her sit through a full day of onboarding, a new laptop, new security credentials. Her job was a fiction. The position was a silo. She was given access to exactly one server drive, marked Confidential M&A Projects. It was a honeypot. The drive was filled with detailed, convincing, and entirely fabricated files about upcoming mergers and acquisitions, a fake deal to buy a smaller European tech firm, a dummy patent portfolio. All of it worthless, all of it irresistible. I gave her just enough rope. I did not have to wait long. It was not Tuesday. It was not even the end of Monday. At 4:53 p.m. on her first day, my private line chimed. It was Arthur. "That was fast, ma'am," he said. "Show me," I said. He did. On my screen, a log file appeared. At 4:51 p.m., user C. Hines had accessed the M&A drive. At 4:52 p.m., she had inserted an unregistered USB thumb drive into her new computer. "She is copying the entire directory." "Margaret," Arthur said. 18 gigabytes of proprietary, sensitive data. She is trying to steal the kingdom on her first day. I watched the progress bar on Arthur's screen move toward completion. "And we have it all," I said. "We have it all," he confirmed. "Corporate espionage, violation of her employment contract, and attempted theft. She is finished." "No," I said, closing the feed. "She is not finished. She is just getting started." The cracks began to show within a week. The penthouse, the parties. The job, it was not enough for Amber. It was only a start. The leash I had given her, the $5,000 weekly limit on the black card, was a source of constant friction. "It is insulting, Julian," I heard her say one night, courtesy of Arthur's surveillance. They were in the pristine, unlived-in kitchen of their new apartment. 5,000. It does not even cover a decent pair of shoes. Your mother is playing games with us. It is a lot of money. Chloe? Julian replied. His voice strained. He sounded tired. It is nothing, she snapped. It is a fraction of a percent of what she is worth, of what we are worth. She is trying to control us. She is treating you like a child, and me like some gold digger. There was a painful pause. She is not, Julian said, his loyalty kicking in, weak as it was. She likes to be in charge. It is how she shows she cares. That is not caring, Julian. That is a hostile takeover. Amber retorted. She gives me this fake job, this title with no power, no access to the real financials. She is testing me. She is waiting for me to fail. We deserve that money. You are her only son. That is your money. It is her money, Chloe, he said, his voice rising. She built the company. We are not entitled to anything. I am your wife, she shrieked. I am entitled to support. You are entitled to your inheritance. Or are you just going to let her run your life forever? It was their first real fight, the one I had been waiting for. It was followed by a week of simmering resentment, a week where Julian's face went from happy and relieved to drawn and anxious. He stopped calling me. He stopped by the office once, looking lost, and was told I was in a meeting. Finally, he could not take it anymore. He appeared at my penthouse on a Sunday, breaking our usual dinner tradition. He looked awful. "You have to stop," he said, skipping any greeting. He stood in my foyer, refusing to come in. "Stop what, Julian?" I asked, looking at him over my reading glasses. "This, the games, the job you gave Chloe, the apartment? It is all just a test, isn't it?" His voice was thick with an accusation he did not have the courage to fully voice. "Are you watching us?" I set my book down. I stood and faced him. I could have lied. I could have soothed him, managed him, as I always had. But the time for that was over. The part of him that was weak, the part I had coddled, was the same part she had exploited. It was time to cauterize the wound. "I am protecting my legacy," I said, my voice as cold and clear as the glass window behind me. "The one I built. The one you seem so eager to hand over to a stranger." His face flushed, a mixture of shame and anger. "She is my wife." "She is a variable I am assessing," I replied. "And so far, she is failing that assessment. As are you." That was the blow. He visibly recoiled, as if I had physically struck him. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for me to take it back, to be the mother he wanted me to be. I would not. "I asked you a question. Mom, are you spying on us?" "I am running my company," I said. "I am protecting my assets. This conversation is over. You need to decide, Julian, right now, whose side you are on, mine or hers." It was a cruel choice, but it was the only one that mattered. I needed to know if any part of my son was left, or if the parasite had truly taken over the host. He looked at me for a long time. I saw the conflict, the pain, the betrayal he felt coming from both of us. He was a man caught in a vice, and he only had the strength to break one side. He chose the wrong one. His shoulders straightened. His face, which had been weak with confusion, hardened with a sudden, sharp, misplaced defiance. "Hers," he said. My heart, the stupid, maternal part of me I thought I had silenced, actually broke. Just a little. A hairline fracture. "Good," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion at all. "Then you are no longer my son." "Fine," he spat, his voice breaking with rage. "If you cannot trust me, if you are going to treat me like a child and my wife like a criminal, then I do not need anything from you. I do not want your money. I do not want your help." He was breathing heavily, his entire body shaking with the adrenaline of this grand, foolish act of self-destruction. "We are moving out," he declared. "I am going to protect my wife. From you." He turned and stormed out, slamming the door. The sound echoed through the penthouse. He went straight back to the Elysian apartment. I watched on the feed as he burst in, energized by his own fury. Amber was on the sofa, painting her nails. "What is wrong?" "We are leaving," he said, grabbing a suitcase. She is impossible. She is spying on us. She gave me an ultimatum. Her or you. I chose you." Amber's eyes lit up. This was it. The final, isolating move. She rushed to him, all fake concern. "Oh, Julian, baby, what did she do?" "It does not matter," he said, throwing clothes into the bag. "We are done with her. She will not give us a cent. She will cut us off completely." "She cannot do that," Amber said, her voice hard. "We will sue. I will get what I am owed." "You do not get it?" Julian shouted, turning on her. "She does not lose. She has already frozen everything. She is impossible to beat." He paced the room, frantic, angry, and betrayed. And then, in his rage, he gave her the key. "My mother will not give us a cent," he seethed, more to himself than to her. "She has us locked out of everything. But I know where she keeps her important papers, the real papers, the trusts, the will, the originals. She thinks she is so smart, but she is predictable." Amber was preternaturally still. "What do you mean, baby?" "In the safe," he said, his voice dripping with resentment. "In her home office, behind the Rothko painting. She has kept it there my entire life." He stopped, realizing he was ranting. He looked at his wife, who was gazing at him with what he mistook for love. He had just handed her the keys to the kingdom. My son's grand, misplaced defiance lasted for exactly 48 hours. It lasted until the black card I had given them was declined at the St. Regis, and the penthouse key no longer worked. The move out of the Elysian was swift. Amber, I learned, had not signed up for a life without my money. The job at Quantum evaporated, as she had, by default, abandoned her position. Arthur tracked them to a grey, soulless room at an extended-stay hotel near the O'Hare flight path. I saw the surveillance photos Julian, my son, who had been raised in rooms overlooking Central Park and Lake Michigan, was now sitting on the edge of a stained polyester bedspread, watching daytime television. He was unemployed, he was miserable, and he was broke. The shift in Amber was immediate. The audio feed from their room, which had once been filled with cooing and false promises, was now sharp, metallic, and cold. The predator was done performing. As Eleanor had predicted, the first official attack was a public one. I was served papers at my office. Amber Hines, using the ridiculous alias Chloe Ashford, had found a lawyer as grimy as her new hotel room. She was suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress and tortious interference with a marital contract. It was a desperate, noisy attempt to scare me into a quick settlement. But that was just the smokescreen. The real plan, the one my son had handed her, was far darker. "Forget the lawsuit." I heard her hiss into her burner phone, a recording Arthur played for me an hour after it was made. She was speaking to her partner, Marcus. "That is just noise to keep the old bitch busy. The idiot. Julian," he told me. He told me about the safe. There was a silence on the line, the sound of Marcus absorbing the information. "The safe in her home office," Amber said, her voice fast and greedy. "Behind her big, ugly painting. He said she keeps everything there. The originals, the real will, the trust documents, bearer bonds, not the copies, the actual signed papers." I felt my blood run cold. She was right. I am from a generation that believes in hard copy, in paper and ink. "If we get those," Amber breathed, "we do not need to sue. We do not need a settlement. We have the leverage. We can destroy the originals. We can make her name us the beneficiaries. We get everything." They needed a window of opportunity. They found one. My annual fundraising gala for Quantum Strategies was in 1 week. It was the largest philanthropic event in the tech sector. A night where I was visibly, publicly occupied for at least 6 hours. "It is perfect," Marcus said on the feed. "She is on stage at the Symphony Hall. Her security detail is with her. The penthouse will be empty." They agreed to meet in person to finalize the details. This was the moment Arthur had been waiting for. He tracked Amber from the hotel to an abandoned cold storage warehouse in the meatpacking district. He was in position 300 yards away, with a parabolic microphone and a high-definition lens, long before Marcus's truck pulled up. I watched the footage live from my own secure office. I saw my daughter-in-law, looking cheap and hard under the flickering sodium lights. I saw Marcus, the Texas husband, his face a mask of brutal calculation. "Julian is a mess," Amber reported, wringing her hands. "He is so broken and angry at his mother. He will give me the building codes. He thinks we are just getting his laptop. We get in. We get the papers. We are gone in 15 minutes. It is clean," Marcus agreed. He was leaning against his truck, arms crossed. "But what if it is not?" "What do you mean?" Amber asked, her voice small. "I mean the old woman," he said, his voice casual, as if discussing a problem with the plumbing. "You cannot just steal the papers. Amber, you have to remove the obstacle. As long as she is alive, she will fight. She will just file new copies. She will have you arrested." Amber was silent, a shadow moving across her face. "You want the company," Marcus continued, his voice a low, persuasive rumble. "You do not get the company by stealing a piece of paper. You get the company when the heir inherits it. And the heir," he chuckled, "is already yours." "Marcus, what are you saying?" she whispered. He pushed himself off the truck and stepped closer to her, his face just inches from hers. The microphone picked up every word, every terrible, distinct syllable. "I am saying," he replied, "that if the old bitch happens to get in the way, if she comes home early, or if she is there when you arrive, a fall down that grand staircase in her penthouse A woman her age. At 62, it is a tragedy, a terrible accident, but it is believable, and it solves every single one of our problems for good." I finished listening to the recording from Arthur. The audio clicked off, plunging the secure room into a profound, heavy silence. I did not flinch. I did not gasp. The terror a normal person might feel was, for me, replaced by something else, a freezing, absolute clarity. The rage I felt was so pure and so cold it had become steel. This was no longer about a bad marriage. It was not about money. It was about a threat to my life. The gloves were not just off. They were incinerated. "They have now," I said to the empty room, "conspired to commit murder." I called the meeting, not in an office, but in my home. In the penthouse they planned to invade. Eleanor, Arthur, and I sat in my living room, the one with the grand staircase Marcus had so casually mentioned. "The rules of engagement have changed," I said, my voice flat. I played the audio for Eleanor. Her face, usually a mask of legal indifference, tightened. "This is no longer a civil matter," she said. "This is attempted murder in the first degree. We take this to the Chicago PD right now." "No," I said. "Not yet. The police are a blunt instrument. They will arrest them. Amber will claim it was all talk, that she was afraid, that Marcus forced her. It will be a messy," he said, she said. "And Julian? Julian will be caught in the middle, a witness in a brutal public trial. I will not have my son's destruction be a matter of public record." "So what do you propose, Margaret?" Arthur asked, his gaze steady. "We cannot let them walk." "We are not going to let them walk," I said. "We are going to eviscerate them. We will isolate them, cut off their resources, and leave them with nowhere to run. We will dismantle their entire lives before the police ever see their faces." The war room was officially open. Arthur, I commanded. Those other victims, the fiancés from Nevada and Florida, I want you to find them. Today, fly them to Chicago, put them up at the peninsula, pay them for their time. Eleanor's team will take their sworn, notarized affidavits. Eleanor, I turned to her. This Marcus, he is a ghost, but he is sloppy. I want an anonymous tip, a very detailed one, delivered to the Internal Revenue Service. I want them to know about his unreported income from his partnerships, his cash withdrawals, his complete lack of a tax history. I want the IRS on him like a disease. A simple matter, Eleanor said, already typing on her laptop. Next, I continued. Amber's gambling debts. Arthur found them. I want to own them. I want my people in Macau and Vegas to find the casinos she owes, the back alley lenders. Buy every dollar of her debt. I want to be the one holding her markers. I want to become her primary creditor by morning. I know the contacts, Arthur said. And once you confirm you are the creditor, Eleanor, I said, we freeze her personal bank accounts, all of them, the ones she had before she ever met Julian. We have cause, the affidavits from the other victims, the pending lawsuit, the surveillance of her meeting with a known con man. It is more than enough to claim fraudulent activity. She will not be able to buy a bottle of water. The plan was in motion. Within 24 hours, the walls were closing in. Arthur's team had 2 signed affidavits. Eleanor's IRS tip was being processed with extreme interest. My financial team confirmed I was now, quietly, the legal owner of over $300,000 of Amber Hines's desperate, high-interest gambling debts. There was only one piece of bait left. The gala. Their entire plan hinged on it. I picked up the phone and called my event coordinator. Nina, it is Margaret. The gala is cancelled. Yes, I know it is in 3 days. A personal family emergency. Send the press release, full refunds to all sponsors, and a double donation to the charity from me personally to cover the damages. I hung up. You just pulled the pin, Arthur said, understanding immediately. They needed that night. They are trapped in that hotel, and now their one big score is gone. They will be desperate, Eleanor added, a note of warning in her voice. Desperation makes people sloppy, but it also makes them dangerous. They might try to move on you sooner. I know, I said. I stood and walked to the window, looking down at the lights of the city. I am cancelling my security detail for the next 48 hours. I will not be in my office. I will be right here, at home. I will not hide in my own house. Margaret, that is insane, Eleanor said. It is not, I said, turning back to them. I will be the bait. Miles away, in that stale, fluorescent-lit hotel room, the desperation I had engineered was setting in. Julian was pacing the small space, his nerves frayed to the breaking point. Amber was on the bed, clicking her nails, her face a mask of silent fury ever since the news about the gala had broken on the local news. She knew, Amber hissed. Somehow that old bitch knew we were coming. She cancelled it to spite us. Or maybe, Julian said, his voice quiet. It is just a family emergency, like the news said. My family. The one you had me walk away from. Do not be stupid, she snapped. Your family is me. He stopped pacing. He looked at her. Really looked at her. He was broke. He was miserable. And he was, for the first of his life, completely alone. He had a few $100s left in his checking account. He remembered an old joint savings account he and Amber had opened, a symbolic thing, to which she had promised to transfer her own savings from her New England bank. It was her money, she had insisted, for their future. He pulled out his laptop. He needed to buy a train ticket, to go somewhere, to think. He logged into the account. It was empty. He frowned, checking the transaction history. There had never been a transfer. She had never put in a single dollar. He saw a single transaction from 3 weeks ago. Debit attempt, Chloe's Cafe. Transaction denied, insufficient funds. He stared at the words. The cafe. The lightning bolt meeting. She had told him she could not pay for her coffee. He thought it was a charming, meet cute story. Now he looked at the date. It was 2 full days after she had told him she had transferred her substantial savings. She had not been a flustered woman who forgot her wallet. She was a woman with an empty bank account. She had lied. About the very first thing. About a cup of coffee. He looked up from the laptop, his blood running cold. He looked at the woman on the bed, his wife, who was now frantically texting on her phone, her face hard and unfamiliar. "Chloe," he asked, his voice shaking. "Who are you?" The lie about the coffee was a small, stupid thing, but it was the only thing I could prove. The suspicion, which had been a dull ache, was now a surgical knife, cutting away the last of my denial. I looked at the laptop screen, at the insufficient funds error from a bank account that was supposed to hold her substantial savings. I looked at the date. The lie was not just a lie. It was the first lie. I left the hotel room, telling Amber I needed air. I told her I had to get my passport from the Elysian, the one thing of value I had left in our old life. She barely looked up, her face a mask of fury as she stared at her phone, enraged by the news of the cancelled gala. I took the cab back to the penthouse. The concierge let me up, his face a mixture of pity and discretion. The apartment was cold, silent, a mausoleum of my own stupidity. It was still wired for sound. Arthur had never deactivated the system. I was in the bedroom, packing a bag, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the security app Arthur had installed. The microphones in the hotel room I had just left were active. Amber was making a call. I tapped the icon. Her voice, tinny and full of venom, filled my ear. She was talking to Marcus. "The gala is off," she was shrieking, her voice stripped of all its polished charm. "The old bitch cancelled it, she must know. She must—" There was a pause. I heard his muffled reply. "No," Amber said, her voice dropping, changing. It became cold, calculating, and 1,000 times more terrifying. "No, it does not matter. It is fine. We will do it tonight. We have to—" I froze, my hand still holding a shirt. "I will get the codes from him," she continued, and the casual cruelty of her next words stopped my heart. "The idiot thinks I love him. He is so broken up about his mommy. He will do anything I say. It is almost sad." The idiot. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the world tilting. I was the idiot. "It does not matter," she said. "Just be ready. We go in, we get the papers, and we deal with her if we have to. As soon as the old woman is gone, Julian is the sole heir, and I am his wife. Everything will be ours. We will be free." I sat there, paralyzed, as she discussed the logistics of ending my mother's life. I do not know how long I listened, but when the call ended, I was a different person. The boy who had run from his mother's house was gone, and in his place was a man who had just seen the raw, unadulterated face of evil. I fumbled for my own phone, my fingers numb. I hit record. I did not know what else to do. I just knew I needed proof. I recorded the silent room. I recorded my own breathing. Then I managed to save the last 5 minutes of her call from the app's cache. I ran. I did not pack. I did not close the door. I ran out of the apartment, through the lobby, and into the street, flagging a cab with a shaking hand. When I arrived at my mother's penthouse, the doorman, who had seen me storm out in anger, now saw me return in sheer, abject terror. I did not wait for the elevator. I took the stairs, 2 at a time, bursting into her private foyer, gasping for air. She was there, in the living room, reading a book, as if it were any other night. She looked up, her face perfectly calm. "Mom," I gasped, stumbling into the room. My face was wet, though I had not realized I was crying. "Julian," she said. Her voice was level. "Mom," I said again, the word a choked, desperate plea. I collapsed. I did not mean to, but my legs gave out. I fell to my knees on her Persian rug. A grown man. Destroyed. "Mom, you were right. You were right. About everything. About everything." The shame was a physical weight, pressing me into the floor. I pulled my phone from my pocket. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely open the app. She... I could not form the words. I just held out the phone and pressed play. Amber's voice filled the grand, silent room. "The idiot thinks I love him. As soon as the old woman is gone, everything will be ours." The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. My mother looked down at me. Her son, a broken, weeping fool at her feet. Her face was marble, not angry, not triumphant, just cold. "You heard this," she stated, "and you came here. What do you want me to do, Julian?" It was the coldness that finally broke me. I was not looking for forgiveness. I was not looking for a rescue. I just needed my mother. "I want my mother back." I sobbed, the words tearing out of me. "I am so sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I want to help you. I want to help you put them in jail. Please." I looked up at her, expecting disgust or pity or the rage I deserved. Instead, I saw her face soften, just for a second. She stepped forward and offered me her hand. I took it, and she pulled me to my feet with a strength that surprised me. "Get up, Julian," she said, her voice still firm, but the ice had cracked. "Stop crying. There is no time for that." What do we do?" I asked, wiping my face. "We have to call the police," she said, "tonight." My mother walked to the bar, poured a glass of water, and handed it to me. "I appreciate you bringing me this, Julian. It fills in the last few blanks." "Blanks, Mom. What are you talking about?" She looked at me, her gaze sharpening, the steel returning. "Julian, I have known everything. I knew she was a bigamist before you had even finished your dessert." I stared at her, my mind unable to process the words. You knew?" "I knew," she said. "About her real name, Amber Hines. I knew about her husband, Marcus. And yes," she said, as my face must have registered a new level of horror, "I have known for 2 days that their plan was not just theft. I have known they were planning to murder me. You knew, and you let me walk away with her. The accusation was weak, but it was all I had. I had to let you see, she said, her voice hard. I had to let you make the choice. I could not have an idiot running my company one day. She used the word deliberately. It stung. But I was not going to let you be harmed. She took the phone from my hand. We do not need to call the police. They are already here. What? The break-in they are planning for tonight, she said, gesturing to the hallway. It is still happening. Arthur is in the service stairwell. 2 armed, off-duty detectives are in my kitchen, drinking my coffee. We have been waiting for them for an hour. She turned back to me, her face all business, the Queen back on her throne. The trap has been set for days. Julian, you just brought us the bait. I looked at Julian, his face pale but resolute. Go to the study, I ordered, my voice quiet. Do not come out. Not until I call you. He nodded, the last trace of the boy vanishing from his eyes, and disappeared down the hall. I took a deep breath, smoothing my dress. I picked up my phone and dialed her number. She answered on the first ring, her voice sharp, agitated. What? Chloe. Dear? I said, my voice as smooth as glass. It is Margaret. It appears we have both been less than honest. I know what you are trying to do. I know everything. A sharp, terrified silence on the other end. Come to the penthouse, I continued. Now, just the 2 of us. Let us be civilized women and discuss what a settlement might look like. Or, I added, we can let the police handle it in the morning. Your choice? I hung up before she could reply. I knew she would come. She was desperate, and she would mistake this for a negotiation, her last chance to get paid, and she would not come alone. My secure earpiece, connected to Arthur, chimed. She is on the move, ma'am? He is with her. Marcus is driving a black sedan, following her rideshare. They are entering the garage now. He is parking on P2, heading for the service stairs. She is coming to the lobby. Let her come up, I said. Let him get into position. Stick to the plan. 10 minutes later, my private elevator chimed. The doors opened, and Amber Hines walked into my home. The polished, New England veneer was gone. She looked hard, cheap, and dangerous, her eyes darting around the room, assessing the threat. So? She spat, her arms crossed. She did not wait for an invitation. She stalked into the living room. You cancelled the gala. You cut us off. You think you are so smart. What do you want? I want you to see something, I said. I did not sit. I stood by the large media center that covered the far wall. I am tired of your games, old woman. How much? How much to sign the divorce papers and walk away from your idiot son? We are done with games, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And I am not paying you a single cent. I hit the remote. The large, mirrored panel above the fireplace flickered to life. It was a screen. I believe you know this location, I said. The footage was dark, grainy, captured by Arthur's long lens camera, the warehouse, her and Marcus. The audio, enhanced, filled my grand living room. If she gets in the way, Marcus's voice echoed, cold and casual. A fall down that grand staircase. 62. It is believable. Amber's face, the one I had watched lie so perfectly over dinner, drained of all colour. She looked at the staircase behind me, then back at the screen. She was a trapped rat. He, he was just talking, she stammered, her voice losing its confidence. That is not. You cannot prove anything. You are right. It is just talk. I agreed. But then, there is this. I hit the remote again. A new file played. This time, it was just audio. Her voice. High, sharp, and full of venom. The idiot thinks I love him? As soon as the old woman is gone, everything will be ours. She lunged, not for me, but for her purse on the table. You were recording me. You recorded yourself, I corrected. And as for your proof, the partner you seem so confident about, you said I could not prove he was even here. He is gone, she hissed. He is smarter than you. I do not think so, I said. And finally, this. I tapped the remote a final time. This one is live. The image changed. It was the security feed from my building's main lobby, 30 floors below. The camera was focused on the service stairwell exit. As we watched, the door burst open. Marcus ran out, only to be met by 3 heavily armed men in tactical gear. It was not the police. It was Arthur's private team, and they were far more efficient. We watched, in high definition, as they slammed him against the marble wall, cuffed him, and dragged him away. Arthur timed the takedown perfectly, I noted, turning back to her. That was when she broke. The cold calculator vanished, replaced by a terrified animal. She shrieked, a raw, ugly sound, and scrambled for the elevator, but the elevator doors did not open. She turned, frantic, and ran for the front door, the main exit. But the heavy door opened before she reached it. Julian was standing in the doorway. His arms were crossed, his face a mask of cold fury. He looked at the woman who had destroyed his life. Going somewhere. Wife. She recoiled, stumbling backward as if he had hit her. She looked from him to me, then back, trapped. And from the shadows of the hallway behind Julian, the 2 detectives I had waiting in my kitchen finally stepped into the room. Amber Hines, one of them said, his voice booming. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder in the 1st degree, marriage fraud, and multiple counts of corporate espionage. They grabbed her arms. She fought. She screamed. She kicked. A wild thing. As they pulled her hands behind her back, twisting her into the cuffs, she locked eyes with me. Her face was a mask of pure, distilled hatred. You did this! She shrieked at me, the sound echoing off the marble. You ruined him. You ruined your own son. He will never forgive you for this. He will hate you forever. They started to drag her away. I walked calmly past the detectives, stopping directly in front of her. I reached out, as if to a daughter, and smoothed the collar of her jacket. I leaned in, my voice a whisper that only she could hear. I would rather have a heartbroken son who is alive, I murmured, than a stupid one who is dead. I smiled, just a little. And by the way, he is the one who called the police. The look on her face as the last door of her cage slammed shut was something I will treasure for the rest of my life. They dragged her out. The heavy door clicked shut. The penthouse was finally, blessedly, silent. Julian was still in the doorway, his entire body shaking, the adrenaline and the horror crashing over him. He looked at me, his eyes shattered. But he was standing. He was alive. I turned my back, walked to the bar, and poured a very large scotch. I looked at my son, my boy, the man who had been forced to grow up in the span of one night. I raised my glass. He met my gaze, and he nodded. The war was over. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are all listening from, so please comment below and let us connect. Share your thoughts on this, and please subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary, like this video, and give us a little extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.